So, yep, we're just going to stream over and go live.
Okay.
Is this your first Amazon Live?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, first of many. You'll have to come back and we'll talk more books too.
Okay, I'm so up for that.
Well, hey, Amazon, welcome back. I'm so excited to talk to Liz Parker today. This is the perfect chef's kiss book for spooky season, October, Halloween, but not too spooky. This is a really good romance, touch of paranormal, just such a good book. And I love anytime there's generational family saga, I'm in. And so I love this so much. I love the history of everything, and I was just pulled into this book from the first chapter. So welcome, Liz. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Liz Parker, and I wrote this book. This is my debut novel, so it is not the first book that I have written, but it is the first book the world has seen that I have written, and I'm super excited to be on talking about it today.
I would never have known that this was your first book, first of all. This book was so good. I loved where it took place, too. I had to ask you about that, too, because you referenced some places where I used to live in northern Kentucky, and I was like, where did this book take place?
Yeah, so it's fictional town called Yarrow, Kentucky, and Yarrow, for those of you who may not know, is actually an herb. It is a plant that is a healing plant, so that's why I named the town Yarrow. But it takes place in Kentucky, and it's sort of like a mashup for anybody who has been to Kentucky.
Yeah.
It's sort of like a mashup of Bardstown is like the big influence for it, but then a little bit of Lexington in there, and then a little bit of, I'm from Tennessee, and so there's like a dash of downtown Franklin in there, which I spent a good amount of my time in.
What a fun city. Yep, I know where Franklin is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I loved it so much. I lived in northern Kentucky on the border of Cincinnati, so opposite ends. But
Okay.
But I love
this is more like southern. Like in my head, Yarrow is like southwest Kentucky. I'm like looking at a map, like southwest near the Tennessee border.
I loved all the family dynamics in this, and I loved learning about all the whiskey. I loved all the bourbon. Was it bourbon or whiskey?
So it's bourbon. So bourbon it's like squares and rectangles. Like not every whiskey is a bourbon, but every bourbon is a whiskey. And so like it has to be like, you have to have a certain amount of corn. It's corn mash. There's actually in the book, it's the opening chapter. He lists out what makes a whiskey a bourbon. So anyway, I could talk about bourbon a lot. We won't.
No, I love to learn things when I read books, and I felt like when I finished this book, I was like, wow, I just like learned something, but it wasn't boring in school. It was just so good, and just I love the history of. I'm a big gardener. 2 years ago, actually, 2 years and a couple days ago, my brother was killed by a drunk driver.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That was like the catalyst for figuring out how to heal, and the two ways I learned how to heal was writing and gardening. And
wait, are we the same person?
Yes. So what I did was I thought, you know what? It can't be too hard. I'm going to plant some things and heal by gardening. And so I started these starter tomato plants in my bathtub. And I thought, oh, this will be good light. Thank you. And then someone said to me, do you know how big those get? And I was like, no. And so
Are they indeterminate tomatoes?
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
And so I didn't know what that meant either. I had both varieties because someone had mailed me a bunch of seeds, and they were really beautiful seeds from Baker's Creek, and they were all different heirloom organic tomatoes that were fantastic. So my friend said, now I don't want you to get your hopes up, like only like 60% of these will germinate. So that's why I went with 90. I was like, okay, well then we'll have a good chunk. So they all took, all of them. So healing was well. And so I had over 90 tomato plants, like 35 cucumber plants, every kind of herb you can imagine. My house was like a jungle, and there's a picture of me watering it. You could only like inch between the plants to get around the backyard. I took over the kids' play areas, every inch of the backyard. The neighbors were like, What's going on? What are you growing over there? So, but I started researching a lot about food and healing, and we were
Yeah,
talking before the live where I don't want to do any spoilers, but one of the things she says is um, we plant the feelings and then like they grow in the vegetables. And then I was like, if you eat that, you're going to feel the feelings. And then I just wanted to like hug these women because they could feel all the feels of these people. And that has to be,
yeah,
they all just need naps every day. So
yeah. Seriously.
yeah, I mean, just sometimes we all joke and we all talk a good game about how we're tired of peopling. Like my family, anyway, we'll be like at the store and running errands, and I'm like, I gotta go home. I have peopled enough today. There is just way too much going on. I gotta go home.
Yes, yes. Well, that's why the Lavender and Lemon Balm Tea Shop is closed for healing on Thursdays because
Exactly.
you can't do it every day of the week. Sorry.
Every day. So tell me a little bit about how does this work with you with you said, are we the same person? How does gardening and plant growing play a role in your life?
So both gardening and writing are all about healing for me. So on the gardening side of things, I have been gardening since I was a kid, and so it kind of comes and goes. When I got my first house, which was in my early 20s, that was the first thing we did. I put down some garden beds and grew a bunch of things, and I learned very quickly. There's actually there's a reference in the book, like a metaphor about vine borer moths, because I can't grow zucchinis. Like for whatever reason, every time I try to grow any sort of zucchini, like it's like I attract vine borer moths, and they kill my plants. Anyway, um, the gardening, it's that having my hands in dirt does something, like it turns part of my brain off, I think, so that the rest of my brain can just like rest.
Yeah.
And there is nothing that does that for me the way that dirt under my nails and in my hands does that for me. So that is, I look to the earth for healing in that way. And then I'm actually in the middle of taking an herbalism class
Oh, I
to
love that.
certify as an herbalist.
Yes.
And so then there's the actual like physical healing of plants.
Mhm.
Like I'm drinking a burdock root infusion
I was
today.
wondering what you were drinking. I
Yeah,
I
it's so
love
good.
that so much. I love all the power of healing in plants. Um, I love that so much. Oh my gosh. So what's your favorite herb right now that you're loving?
Burdock.
And what did you call it? Burdock?
Burdock, yeah, burdock root. It's Burdock, and it's like it looks a lot like milk thistle, but the
Yeah.
leaves of burdock are much bigger. Um, and it is so good for so many things.
What does it
And it's really tasty.
what does it help with?
Burdock root helps, the one of the biggest things it is good for is like skin, and so it's skin clearing. It helps with like the herpes virus. So if you get cold sores,
Mhm.
I actually got sick back in May, and I always get a cold sore when I'm sick. And I had started working with burdock root like 2 weeks before that. So I was drinking daily infusions, and I have not had a cold sore since. I did not get a cold sore while I was sick. And I was like, okay, I'm drinking burdock for the rest of my life.
It looks good. It looks like a refreshing green tea or something. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. It has like a turquoise color. Actually, there's also dandelion root in this right
Okay.
now because I'm on some medication. So dandelion root's really good for your gut bacteria. And so
Mhm.
is burdock. But so I threw some dandelion in
I love
last night.
Oh my gosh, I have so many book ideas for you.
Look, send me all. I love
I
to
will send
read
them all.
the book ideas.
Oh my gosh. So I love the family saga here. So where did the inspiration come? I mean, we can't do spoilers because I see you guys are buying this. I see the book going up. So I know this is just, I don't even know what to tell you other than you will be so sorry if you don't buy this book. It is the perfect book for this month. It is going down in my favorite book for October. I always have one favorite out of the whole month, and I read a lot, a lot. I've read over 200 and something books this year so far. Um,
You do read a lot.
I do. I read a lot for the show, and just I'm a book talker, and first and foremost, that's what I do. I'm a writer too, but that's my Have you seen the TikToks where they're like, there's chit chat, and the minute I open a book, shh, like it's like the
I
anxiety
have not
goes away.
heard that sound, but
So
like,
it's almost like you describe gardening when you
yeah.
open a book and you fall into that world. Like, okay, it's like a runner's high. When you
Mm,
read a book, but you're so laser focused in, and the time goes by, and you
yeah.
come up and you finally look up and you're like, what day is it? What time is it? What month is it? I don't even know where I came from. You just like transfixed into another time. That's what
Yeah.
your book did to me. I was in
Oh,
Yarrow, Kentucky. Like, I mean, I was like into this, and my kids are like, "What's for dinner?" I'm like, "Go, you have a dad. Go get your dad." I'm I'm in this world right now. I can't get out of it. And so, where did the generational saga come in for you?
yeah. So, okay. So it's actually really interesting. This book has been through so many drafts.
Yeah.
Uh, and I initially wrote this as a YA book, and I completely tore it down from the ground up and rewrote it as adult, which allowed me to really dig into the generations.
Mhm.
I love generational books.
Yeah.
Like, so where the generations came from in this story, I come from a pretty large family. Like, I have I'm one of 30 grandchildren that my grandmother has. And so that's where like the cousins kind of come, like that sort of relationship. And so I spent a lot of time around people of multiple generations when I was growing up, and the types of conversations and the back and forth and that sort of thing. So I really wanted to play with some of that. There is a scene in the book that's like it's a family dinner scene, and everybody is talking over each other. And that is
Mhm.
my experience growing up. So that's where the multiple generations came from. That, and I think one of the things that was really important for me that I really wanted to show in this book is that you don't stop growing and changing just because you're an adult, just because you're older. And so, like, the primary love story in this book, they're 46 and 48 years old, I think, and
Yeah.
you can fall in love late into your 40s. The grandmother in the book, Mara, is 69, and she has a full character arc of growth, because just because you're almost 70 doesn't mean you don't still have places to grow and change. And I wanted to show that, and I think the best way to do that was to have uh, a big cast across multiple generations.
I also love all the detail in your book. I have to say, I'm a sucker for when the paperbacks are formatted so special, and you can see the flip through. Um,
Yes,
you can
there's
see it. I love it.
there's like one section where there's two like one page chapters because they're super short,
Yeah.
and it's like back to back, and the detail goes all the way across. And I was like, when I saw it the first time, I was like, so
Yeah. I love
that,
that so
that
much.
was my editor's vision, and I'm so happy with it.
Well, and it's like a garden. I love it so much.
Mhm, mhm.
So the Haywood family. So they're known for they're kind of witchy. They're not, they're just more herbalists in my opinion. I think they were just more herbalists and
Yeah, I would call them green witches. Like, for anybody who's watching that like is into like, oh, are you an eclectic witch or an astro witch, or but they're green witches.
so I am one of those people. I like things that are realistic. If it can't really happen, I'm like, I don't know. Like I don't read a lot of science fiction or anything like that. Not my jam. But this book, I just fell into it. I don't know. It was one of like those food like you go into a food coma where you just are like, what did I just eat? Like, I'm like, what did I just read? That was so good. And so tell me a little bit about the family side and the or the bourbon side because I loved the whole like protagonist and the mom.
Yeah, yeah.
She was like,
Okay.
I like her. Did she go here? I don't know.
Are we talking about Sylvia? Like on the yeah, okay. So yeah, so there's the Haywoods. Sorry, I got distracted. There's like five crows in the backyard yelling right now. I don't know what they're yelling at, probably a
Is
raccoon.
that like an
Um,
omen or something?
it's look, I post about my crows all like I have they come, and they're being very noisy right now. Anyway,
You're not alive. Hi.
so there's the Haywoods, the Green Witches, and then there's the Bonners, which is like there's this rival family, and the Bonners run the bourbon distillery in town, and the matriarch of the Bonner family is Sylvia Bonner, and she is very complicated. And I don't want to.
Yeah.
One thing I guess I can say is there is a character in the book who gets physical sensations when she's around certain people, and when she is around Sylvia Bonner, to this character it feels like she has touched stinging nettle. And so for anybody who has ever touched stinging nettle, it feels like glass pouring into your skin. So like I think that maybe says enough about Sylvia. And she is the mother of one of the primary point of view characters, Caden. Sylvia's very complicated.
I know.
There's at the end of the book, there's discussion questions, which I wrote. And there is one about Sylvia, and I won't say what it is because it's definitely spoilery. But if anybody reads through discussion questions, discusses the book, and I would love to know the response to the question about Sylvia. And what readers' thoughts are about her.
Which question was it?
I think it's question 7. It's 7 or 9. 9 is also 9. Spoiler.
I think it's 9.
It is 9.
I know. I struggled with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like, why? You had choices. Ah.
And that's the thing I think about Sylvia is she's very real. Like there are, and that's why
there are a lot of
Nora is in the book too.
Yeah,
because you can grow and you can change, but then there are people who don't or might not choose to, and it's like, and that's life.
I like this depth in your book because, and that's kind of why I wrote my book. Was people were like, you really went dark there. I was like, yeah, and it kind of looks like a rom-com too, and it's like, surprise, it's not. And so I like dealing with the hard stuff because for people that have lived with the hard stuff, when we read books that are just like unicorns on rainbows, it's such a lonely feeling. But when we read books where, okay, well, Sylvia was a jerk like XY family member or a friend of a family member I know or something, and they still prevailed, they still overcame. You're not as alone in your situation, I think. And so having books that really portray imperfections can be so important in this world. And I don't know about you, but I've received a lot of messages where people are like, I'm also dealing with similar grief, but I couldn't articulate it, but you did in the book, and it made my emotions have words. And I was like, oh.
Yeah.
So
I have had a lot of people who are like,
yeah,
Hayden's origin story is so much like my own. And I'm like, I am sorry.
Right?
Same, but I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah. Well, and even like Addison is one of the main characters in the book. She's 24, so she's the youngest of the characters in the story. And a lot of people in their reviews are like, Addison was so frustrating, and not necessarily in a bad way, but like because you're 24, you're making choices, like you're still young, and there's also lots of things going on in the story with magic, but you're trying to find yourself in your family and outside of your family, and that's her arc, and it's a frustrating experience. And so for anybody who's frustrated with Addison, good, I did my job.
Yeah, because at 24, if I read a book where they have all their stuff together at 24, I'm like, okay.
Because your brain's not even fully developed.
No. Like, I look back at myself at 24 and I'm like, wow, I made it.
Yeah, and she's just like right in the thick of that. So,
and not to mention her family has like some crazy skills of, hard stuff. And so I mean, we're not talking like dad's a plumber, mom's a teacher. No, they're like these crazy healers. Like nothing's off limits. There's like really no boundaries with these women. They know what's going on. There's no secrets. Well, there's
because one of the magic is that they not only can they heal people's pain, but they see emotions. Their empathic magic is that they see auras in the form of flowers, and there's like a little glossary at the back with the
Yes,
aura.
I was going to tell you, I love the glossary, and I found it after the fact, and I went through and I'm like, oh. So if you're reading it, I definitely recommend reading through it beforehand because will make things a little easier. But this is going to be the best reading book club pick throughout. It's a wintry book too. I feel like it's not just a fall vibe book, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a year-round book. Into the
Well, and
spring.
it takes place in the summer, which
Yeah,
it's fall vibes because like the town, there's like this darkness over the town, the gloom, and so it has fall vibes. But it takes place in like June.
yeah. This is going to be. You guys have to do like a book club with this one. This is going to be a book club pick for sure. I see this flying off the shelves, and people are going to need to do book clubs on this because not only did you learn something reading it, if you're like me and you're like, oh, I didn't know that about Yarrow, and well, I didn't know that about Yarrow because I like obsessively read things like that. But I loved learning things, and also the reader questions in the back are gonna bring. I mean, talk about bringing up good conversations in book club. It's gonna be amazing. So definitely
I,
recommend.
yeah, I'm very excited. I had a librarian reach out to me. She was like, "This is our book club pick for February," and I'm like, and you know, I cried. I cry a lot. But yeah, I hope that it does bring up those conversations. So because like writing this book was a healing experience for me, dealing with some of my own trauma. I have complex PTSD, so like I wrote this book. This I think my idea for this book, it's like write what you know, and I was like, okay, well I know trauma and I know gardening, so that's where it came from. But my hope is that people will see themselves in the story, and like you said earlier, it's like, oh yeah, I have a family member like this, and oh, it's okay for me to maybe not talk to them or
Yep.
wherever that goes. So
And it's okay to find your own form of healing. Not everybody's going to heal the same way. Some people use gardening as an escape. Some people use really negative things as a form of escape. And, there's just everybody heals differently, everybody grieves differently. That's another thing, too, is there's no timeline on grief, there's no timeline
yeah,
on healing from trauma. And, it's a lot of work. Most people don't realize it's a lot of work. But I do think books like these can help people be encouraged to heal and not be so alone in their grief and trauma and hurt.
yeah.
So, but really an upbeat book. I don't want you guys to think, oh, that's a really, it really isn't. It's so good. So good.
A lot of people have described it as like a warm hug. So like those things are
Yeah.
there, but it's like
Yeah.
it, yeah,
It's
it's not
just,
so down and
and it's
dark.
not too heavy. Not too heavy to read. Where did your love of reading and writing begin?
Oh, well, I have been reading since I was a child. As most people when I've learned to read as a kid. No, I have reading has always been an escape for me. So like I spent a lot of my childhood. We would go places and do things, and I always had a book, and it was always Liz, put the book down. And I'm like, actually, no, I will keep reading the book.
Yeah.
Um, and was one of those kids like in middle school who had books inside my textbooks. And so like I would set the textbook up on the desk and I would be reading. I was reading, I probably should not, like I was reading like Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time, like in the 6th grade, like stuff that like I didn't really even understand, but like behind my behind my textbooks. The writing thing, I the first thing I ever remember writing actually was like it was supposed to be a book report, and it turned into like a short story about a magnolia tree and how the tree was alive and how we were connected. And anyway, so if that tells you a little bit about me and plants,
Yeah.
the fiction writing didn't start until college. I took a course that was about writing as a way of healing. And we actually had to do a creative nonfiction piece. Like it was like at the time I was like, I could never write 30 pages. And now it's like, and now I'm like, oh, what's my word count? Like that's an 82,000 word book. Like it's,
Yeah.
but that showed me that writing in prose, is a healing experience. And so like
Absolutely.
for me all along, writing and reading have been healing or escape, but like healthy escape.
Yes. Healthy escape. Reading and writing is a really good healthy escape. Like I joked with the meme earlier, but so many people find solace in reading right now, and I mean it's great.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. What are you currently working on?
Okay, so I can't talk too much about it,
Yeah.
also because
Okay.
it's like also in very infant stages. So I over the past couple of years, my process has shifted, and I'm now a note card person, which I was never a note card person before. So I have this enormous cork board um that like my husband is also a writer, and so like the back of it is him and the front of it is me. And it's just got all these note cards up there right now. What I can say is that I am working on something. It is magical and witchy. um I'm hoping for the next thing that I write to be more of a sister story and less of a always there will be like generations and the impact that family has, but whereas in the Shadow Garden was more of a mother daughter granddaughter story, this would be more of a sister type interaction, and we'll deal with things like healing and trauma probably,
Oh,
and then definitely magic, because that's what I write.
love that. Well, that is what you write, and for sure, that is like that's why I was so excited when I started interviewing. I cannot wait to see what else you write. You are definitely my cup of tea, and I basically you can write a grocery list, and I want to read it.
Well, my grocery lists are full of typos, so it is always an adventure when I get to the grocery store and I'm like, I don't know what this is supposed to be that I need to pick up here. So
You're like, what is this? Did I grow this? Is this in my backyard? What are you currently reading right now?
okay, so I just finished Sundial by Catriona Ward, which is, if you're like, oh, is this like Liz's book? No, it is not. Sundial is, it's horror, it's a thriller, it is language. It will mess with your head. So it oh whew. Catriona Ward's writing is just beautiful and her metaphors are beautiful, but it's like, so I just finished that and I just started, so that's adult. I just started Pretty Dead Queens by Alexa Dunn, which comes out to, oh, it's Tuesday. I gotta do a post after this. It's out today. Um, I'm doing an event with her in Los Angeles on Thursday, but that one is YA and thriller. So I'm in the October-y thriller space right now. And I'm also in the middle of Sarah Addison Allen's Other Birds. So, still like the magic. So those are a couple things I'm reading actively.
Nice. What advice would you have for an aspiring author?
Ooh. Um, I would say always be writing. Um, Keep writing, write until you, with a project, done is better than perfect. But you once you finish something, if you have reached a point where you're like, this is the best that I can possibly do on my own, that would be when to take the next step, whether that's looking for an agent or an editor. But the biggest piece of advice I would give is always keep writing, because like I signed with my agent in 2014 and I did not sell a book until 2021. March of 2021 is when we sold In the Shadow Garden, and we tried to sell five other books before we sold In the Shadow Garden. And if I had just sat with the same project, this project would have never come. So be okay with letting something go. Um, and know that even if you do let something go, those words are never wasted, because that is what gets you to where you are now. Like, a lot of people are like, I can't believe this is a debut. And I'm like, well, that is because I have written 6 books. Like, and every single one of those got me to this point. And I am so glad that this is the book that I'm debuting with. So never stop writing and don't give up. Those are my two biggest.
Now I want to read all those books.
I am reworking one of them, and I'm in a constant state of rework with it, because it's like a book that I love. I just haven't found the right.
Remember what we said about summer school?
And it's that one is like an Edgar Allan Poe inspired retelling. It's darker than in the Shadow Garden for sure, but it's like always like I'm always working on it up here. The other ones I'm like glad that they're not out in the like, I'm glad I'm such a better writer than when I wrote them that I'm like, yeah, that's fine. And maybe I will bring them back at some point and rework them to like the level of writing them at now. Um,
But you did it.
I did it. Yeah.
You should be so proud of that because start to finish on a whole book is incredible.
Yeah. And we tried like good enough that my agent and I were like, let's try to sell this book. Like, but I am really glad that In the Shadow Garden is the one that I'm debuting with because it.
What a debut. What a debut, first of all. Whether you read this on Audible, whether you read this on Kindle or paperback, the paperback is my favorite. I don't know, though. I haven't tried the Audible, but I do think this is fantastic.
The Audible, there's 5, it's a 5 narrator cast.
5?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. So Addison, Irene.
Wow. Grand Central didn't hold any stops, did they?
Quinn. Yeah. Yeah. 5. And they do, oh my gosh. There's this scene in the book when Caden goes home to see his mom for the first time. And the narrator, like, he hit every single emotional beat that I put on the page. Like, and it was, it's so powerful in the audiobook form. Whew.
I did not Sylvia in that scene. I did not. I was like,
it's like, oh yeah, let's do some gaslighting and manipulation.
That's exactly what I said reading. I'm like, she is such a gaslighter. Like,
gaslighter.
So wicked. Wicked. Oh, it's so good, you guys. So good. Where else can we find you and support you online?
Yeah, I'm on most platforms as Liz Parker Writes. That's my website, Twitter. I'm most often on Instagram and TikTok. I post a lot of herbalism content.
I didn't see you on there. I was gonna tag you in my TikTok this morning.
I'm Liz Parker Writes. Okay. I'm there.
I pulled it up and I was like, I don't want to tag this lady, and then she's like, what is Okay, so what is your TikTok?
That's me. Liz Parker Writes on TikTok.
Okay.
And so I do a lot of herbalism content there.
Oh, I'm here for all that. I'm going to follow you.
Herbalism, tea leaf readings, and then my crows that I mentioned before. I post a lot of videos of them. And then I'm on Pinterest where I post a lot of herbalism stuff too. So I'm everywhere. Sign up for my newsletter. Eventually I'll send out things that aren't just related to my book launch, I promise.
I'm already signed up for your newsletter and it's fantastic. Okay, you guys have got to grab this. I'm not even joking. This is so good.
One other thing, I'm trying to get to 50 reviews on Amazon. When I get to 50
everyone leave her a review. Your book is out now, so I forgot. I'm glad you said that because I read it and I think I did Goodreads, but I did not do Amazon because you can't leave an Amazon review until it's out. Yeah. So everybody, let's max her out today. Go and leave her an Amazon review here. Also follow her here on Amazon because she is going to have more books coming and you won't want to miss those. So you can grab them here on Amazon and Amazon will let you know when she puts something out. But it does really help if you can get to a certain amount of reviews. So definitely everybody leave her some love here on Amazon. And I know. And
when I hit 50, I'm doing a giveaway. I'm going to give away one of these plushies and then a signed book. And this plushie is like he lives inside of. It's a cicada. Cicadas are in the book. I don't even have
a signed book, you guys.
And so like he lives inside. And anyway, so if I get to 50, I am going to do a giveaway. So check me out on Instagram. That's where that will be.
Follow her on Instagram and grab her book today and leave her some love. Thank you so much for joining us. This was so much fun.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, Amazon, go ahead and grab her new book. You will not be sorry. This is this is my favorite book for October, and I will see you guys on the next one. Okay, stand by one moment.